Hey, welcome back to another episode of Go FUD Yourself. Today, episode 101.
So is it season 2, episode 1 now, or are we just going? Are we going to go into like the thousands? How do you want to do it?
Let's do a 100-episode season. So we're in season 2. Season 2. Just one day, somebody's going to
for the moment decision.
We're going to make it on Netflix, and somebody's going to be binge watching crypto news. The only thing about Go FUD Yourself is that once the video is done, like the next day, it's old news, right?
Absolutely.
So like it's only relevant for like one day, and then we do one the next day, so it's perfect. But just when you all thought we might just take off and take a break, we're still here.
Absolutely not. Never.
All right, we got a bunch of shit to talk about. JD Gagnon here, my good friend Kara. What are we talking about today?
It's my favorite day. I get to talk about world news and pretend it's related to crypto. We're talking about the crypto arms race. We're going to start with Africa. There was some big news out of Africa about 24 hours ago, almost exactly during our show. But to give you the context for that, we'll talk about crypto regulation in Africa a little bit more generally first. And as always, we get to go on a super fun trip around the world. We're going to hop from Africa over to the EU because there were some documents leaked about some of their upcoming
private jet this time instead of Leah's.
Oh, you don't want to go together? Oh, instead of Leah's.
Now that we've done 100 episodes, I think we deserve a G650 or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or you go to the EU. We're going to check out the draft bill that got leaked. I always wonder when things are leaked, if they're leaked on purpose or not. And then we will talk about the UAE, just a couple new partnerships there. We'll talk about Binance in Australia. And then if we have time, we're going to talk about the sorry state of America.
I'm going to make a friendly wager that we're not going to get through even 2/3 of that. But we can sure try. I'm wearing non-merch today, so just loving the hearts. I have 3 kids, and all of these shirts, the brand is called Play. They've all got 3 hearts on them. So all the kids have identified which heart is for them, and they think it's like the greatest thing they've ever done. All right. Enough of that nonsense. Let's fucking go. Where are we? All right, we are back, episode 101. Quick reminder, live show, Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, every day.
We don't post-prod this.
This is live, so all the nonsense that you hear is candid and amazing. Like, share, subscribe, help us share the love, please. We're not doing this for commercial gains. We're just doing it to, build a better community, I think, in crypto and help people become more educated. All right, we got tons of shit to get into today. It's just Kara and I. For those of you on Twitter Spaces that can't see us, apologies for no Twitter Spaces yesterday, but here we go. We're back. Okay, where do you want to start? Africa.
Start in Africa. I just want to do a quick little rundown about crypto in Africa because it is all over the place, right? Just kind of like in South America, etc. Different countries are trying different things. So we already know that Nigeria tried to introduce their CBDC and it wasn't well received. I believe that was almost 6 months ago now when they had riots in the streets because they caused a purposeful cash shortage. So people had to use their CBDC. Weird. So Nigeria was originally really pro crypto. And then they thought, oh, wait, power and control. We can do this ourselves. And people weren't happy about that. And then Nigeria was also, I believe, the first country in Africa to start licensing crypto exchanges. And so if you want to be licensed in Nigeria next year, you need to have been applying already. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Kenya. I actually don't know a ton about Kenya crypto. We don't see them in the news very much. The only things that we know is that they looked at doing a CBDC. They never moved forward with it. And then they put a tax on digital assets this year.
Do you know, I didn't see it in the article, but do you know if that tax is on asset transfers? Is it on asset gains? 3% is pretty low.
It is really low.
I don't see that anywhere.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I don't have a quick answer for you. It's just transfer or exchange of digital assets.
So it's just a transfer tax?
Transfer tax, and then
every time you move assets, they take 3%.
Yes, and then there's still a salary tax. Also, if you're a content creator, not relevant necessarily to crypto, you have a 15% levy on all of your transfers in Kenya. So don't move to Kenya and be a content creator. We've just learned.
Or move crypto around. 3%. That sounds great if it's on gains, but if it's on every transaction, holy hell.
Glad we looked that up together. Mauritius is apparently very forward-looking. They haven't actually enacted anything. They just have enacted like frameworks and ways that they will want you to be compliant, but they haven't like started enforcing that compliance. So I guess they technically requested licensing before Nigeria, but they haven't enacted it as soon as Nigeria. So a little bit of a crypto arms race within Africa itself. Ghana is.
Wait, before you move on to that, Mauritius, I remember that was a big deal actually, that we in 21, this was like super out of the mold, like issuing frameworks, AML, like all of this stuff. And so they were way ahead of the curve. And I believe what they're doing is trying to, well, as it says in the title in the banner, mitigate those money laundering risks, while at the same time giving it some time to see how things go and make sure that, you know, whatever regulations they put in actually will work. So not super opposed to what Mauritius is doing. They're a little slow, but that's bureaucracy. And I mean, here we are in America, and we're a hell of a lot slower than they are. So
Ghana also has a crypto tax. It's 1.5% on all digital financial services. So it's not crypto explicit. That includes like e-banking and that kind of stuff. They call it an e-levy. It was super controversial, and people walked out of their legislature while it was going through because they were mad about it. So Ghana is doing something. Morocco has been super anti-crypto, but no formal research that I could find can tell me a number, but people believe that over half of Moroccans actually own crypto and that they just VPN around it. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because
which would make them probably the highest, if not one of the highest proportions globally.
But that wasn't like a formal survey, because when they go to do their e-census and they say, hey, do you own crypto? They all say no, because it's illegal. But also, apparently we get a lot of activity through there. I also wonder if that's people routing their VPN activity through Morocco for reasons I wouldn't understand. I don't know. It's kind of interesting, though, that they're super anti-crypto, maybe because they have such a bad reputation for like human trafficking and black market stuff that they were trying to avoid that. Kind of a weird stance to take, though. And then
my position still remains the same on that. It's a lot easier to get away with nefarious activities with fiat than it is with.
Absolutely, I agree. But I just mean, like, from a perception perspective, perhaps that's what they were going
Of course.
for. I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't find a lot about Morocco in this particular context. And then Egypt, also very, very anti-crypto, but people are still participating. So that's kind of the realm of major African things.
Egypt ranks 14th among the top 30 countries from Chainalysis Index, which is kind of insane. To be honest, like that's like really high in terms of adoption, and they have expressly banned trading. So what this in aggregate tells me anyways, is that the movement, the transition to digitizing currency and many assets is happening, whether governments want to stop it or not. So I think the writing has been on the wall for a little while, in the sense that I think people are looking at this, people being, you know, global leaders and lawmakers are looking at this going, oh, crap, we tried to prevent it, we can't, so let's figure out how
and that is why South Africa just yesterday, 24 hours ago, launched their new regulation, which includes licensing requirements for you to participate as an institution.
Right. South Africa also has a very large contingent of both builders and users, which is, I mean, kind of makes sense. Most of these countries that have really inconsistent fiat currencies and you know, the governments are kind of crazy and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Crypto is obviously a huge advantage to most of those people. So, I mean, it makes sense, but it's good to see, again, other nations coming out and saying, hey, again, let's try to figure out ways to play here as opposed to just throw up our hands. So
to be compliant in Africa, to be an institution compliant in Africa in 2024, you will need to submit your license application by November 30th. In the last 24 hours, over 20 license applications were already submitted. And the news says, there's no way for me to validate this, but the news says that they actually worked alongside some of their local crypto firms and some larger crypto firms to ensure that the regulation and the application was actually doable. So that's kind of an interesting move if it's true.
Amazing. Yeah, that is, I mean, hopefully it's true. But that is exactly, again, what we believe these groups should be doing. Like meaningfully engage key stakeholders with larger protocols, platforms, businesses that already exist, to make sure that you don't lose them. Like it doesn't make sense to be stifling innovation anywhere. And all of these countries need, contributions to GDP, and so does the US. So I like it. It's good to see.
I thought it was pretty cool. I like seeing different countries being a little bit more forward thinking than we are, which I guess is what the EU is doing with the metaverse. So there was a leaked document. It's a European Commission paper about how the metaverse is going to need global governance to be legal and open and, I don't know, happy. I don't really know what they're going for here, but they're talking about how they want to have regulatory sandboxes so that we can try out a few different regulations for the metaverse, so that institutions can try interacting with regulations in different ways, so that institutions can try doing different things in the metaverse. But like, one, was this actually leaked, or is this like a test field to see how it's received? And because I am forever wearing a tin hat.
Yeah, this is a weird one. Like the metaverse, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the metaverse doesn't exist yet, the way that we all think it will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like Decentraland and Sandbox and others that kind of do this. Meta has spent somewhere close to 100 billion, I think, or something crazy in R&D on the metaverse, and they've got a really crappy version of Zuck.
That's right.
By the Eiffel Tower, and it looked really horrible. So, I mean, this to me seems like a bit of an act in futility. Like the metaverse as it will exist doesn't right now. So what the hell are we trying to regulate something that pretty much nobody uses, and there's currently not a lot of harm? The other thing,
part of why I think that this wasn't leaked and instead was leaked is because it says in the paper that they're trying to figure out how to talk to other countries in an international open way to shape the governance process. So like, I don't think that they're actually looking at governance now. They're just trying to spur the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, this reminds me of like regulation around TV and radio and different crap. I mean, good freaking luck trying to get countries to actually agree to that stuff globally. Like, I mean, even the difference between Canada and the US. In Canada, to be on TV, all of the major broadcasters have to show a certain amount of Canadian-made content and all this other crap. Where in the US, it's quite the opposite. There's very little regulation on TV and radio. Yeah. There's some, of course, but certain things you can and can't say and can and can't do. But we'll have to see how this one plays out. I think there's so many angles to the metaverse, like in its eventual formation, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. So
this paper is also talking about Web 4, and I just want you to know that
there has not been anybody talking about Web 4.
It's in this paper.
So the metaverse is Web 4.
The metaverse will be Web 4, and then Jack Dorsey's Web 5.
Yeah, Jack Dorsey can just go live in Web 5, and the rest of us.
Do you feel behind now?
Yeah, I'm gonna start building Web 6. I think.
I don't know why I think this is so funny.
It's fucking ridiculous. Like it took a few decades to go from Web 2 to Web 3.
Yeah, well now we're gonna have just like Web 1 through Web 10, just kind of willy-nilly. So
it's all gonna happen. Yes, whatever we decided. Yeah.
Okay, so whatever. So we have a lot of governance going on in Africa. We have some governance going on in the EU or around the world for the metaverse. And then competitively, the UAE has been trying to draw in more crypto participants. And their latest way that they want to do that is they're actually setting up like a new pitch system with Hedera blockchain. So they're looking to have groups move in and start up in the UAE, which I don't know, seems like an expensive place to start up, but maybe they can make it appealing.
Yeah, I mean, they have a digital asset oasis. That's what that RackDAO is, in a free zone. And so I think like the UAE is a little strange. I don't understand it entirely, but you have to, if you're foreign, you have to live in the free zones and you have to do a whole bunch of stuff to maintain your status there. This is interesting, I think. Hedera, which is HBAR Foundation. So it's actually not the UAE that's doing this. It's this company that has assets in the free zone in the UAE, partnering with Hedera being an ecosystem that they're trying to get partners to launch into. So I think.
Oh my bad! I thought they were trying to get more people to move to the free zone. Like I thought this was involved.
They are. I'm just not sure if the UAE royals are actually involved.
Gotcha.
But let me double check here.
No, I must have misunderstood. It makes way more sense if they're not involved. But yeah, startups can receive grants, technology support, marketing assistance, BD, pitching, projects. If you have a crypto startup and you're not feeling good about the US or the EU or Australia or whatever, I guess you can go to the UAE and see how that goes.
And for clarity, I'm not sure if that requires you to live in the UAE. I think that's just for domiciling the entity there.
Yeah, so, probably. Good point.
Maybe worth looking into.
This is news we don't know about. Now you do.
DYOR.
All right. So the next one is in Australia. We're kind of going from the broad scale of is regulation happening to Australia's regulating Binance right now. So Binance is claiming to be fully compliant. If you go check out their own press release, etc., and they have a couple things that they said in a short interview with Decrypt as well. But yeah, Australia doesn't like what they've been doing, and they've been raiding subsidiary offices and starting probes to see if they're committing tax fraud and committing other frauds and insider trading and whatever else.
So how this all started was the derivatives business for Binance, specifically futures, leverage futures. They were claiming, the Australian government has claimed that there was market manipulation on behalf of Binance, and they were sharing and selling the information to market makers and so on, stop hunting and all that kind of crap. So that's how this all started. And then the government of Australia started slowly kind of chewing away at the banking partners and all of that kind of stuff, and vendors and different local partnerships that Binance had. They lost their banking partner, got a new one. I think they lost that one. And so it's a bit of a coordinated crackdown. Again, I don't think Binance is going to die. I just think it's time they get their business practices in line with most other multinationals. And then if they do, they'll probably be out of this hot water everywhere.
Apparently, they're experiencing similar probes in France. So we already know that they pulled out of Germany and I think the Netherlands, but France is maybe not raiding their offices because they probably don't have the support for that right now.
Probably busy trying to stop their libraries from being burned down. Do you see that?
Just throw that out there, but it looks like they're facing similar scrutiny in other countries. We already kind of know that, but it's interesting to me that Binance keeps saying we're being compliant, and the whole reason that they're under scrutiny is that they haven't been compliant.
Yeah. Did you kind of a tangent here, but did you see that library that was burnt down in France?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the largest library in France, in Marseille, and they had 1 million ancient one-of-one texts that were burned entirely by apparently a migrant group from Africa. Who knows? I don't understand why all the migrant groups are the ones rioting in France right now, because it's the retirement age that started all this.
Yeah. If you look at French, this is going to sound weird, but if you look at French TikTok, there's a lot of French youth, like actually from France, not just migrant groups, who are also rioting. So this is what I do with my evenings. Is I watch.
I feel like it's. I feel like it is in a lot of ways a generational thing right now. Like we're kind of seeing the what is that, Gen Z? The like 18 to 25 group right now. Is that Gen Z?
It is, and then Gen Alpha is coming up after them, and I think that they are. I'll have to double check the years, but I think they're 16 or 17 already.
Is Gen Alpha? Okay. Well, anyways, it's mainly Gen Z, and it's kind of a societal thing. Like you go out, you riot. Like I remember if I was like 18, 19, this probably would have been cool back then too. I'd have been like, hell yeah, let's go loot these stores, like put on ski masks, go out and, I don't know, drink Colt 45s if those exist anymore.
I don't know if they exist in France, but
like there's some like crazy videos of these people like shooting fireworks at cops and like all this crazy stuff. It's just like, holy shit. Like when did that become legit? Anyways, we're digressing a lot.
I could talk about this for a long time. I lived in France like during some riots. It was pretty wild. But Maybe that's for a Twitter space one day.
Maybe we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do
We'll have a Twitter space for you to talk about COVID, and then I'll talk about France.
Don't get me going on COVID. All right.
All right. We actually have time. We're gonna move into America. And the thing so I've been reading the news, as you might have anticipated, and a lot of news outlets are starting to talk to American crypto users as business refugees or crypto refugees or just refugees. And so I did look into it. Places like the UK, places like the UAE, they are not officially using these terms. There's not like a refugee movement coming from the government or something like that, but it is clickbait. It is fodder for you to feel really sorry for yourself. You're not a crypto refugee yet. I'm sorry. You probably can't get asylum somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I claim asylum? But
Wired is definitely using this term. And I don't know, I thought it was really extreme. Do you feel that hard done by in America?
Not yet.
Okay.
But we've generally stayed out of the crosshairs of any major issues. That would be a completely different answer, I think, if we were being persecuted for being in the space currently, which is what has happened to some groups that have just had to fold. So I don't think I yet feel like a refugee, but I think we're standing on the precipice of that either being the case or figuring it the hell out.
Well, if we do close a whole industry, like that becomes a space where maybe this term is a bit more appropriate to use.
Yeah, like I don't think we're going to overtly close the industry. I think they're just going to make it so difficult in the interim for people to participate. So I'm not sure if it would ever qualify as like proper asylum or proper refugee status or anything. Can you imagine American refugees? Like that would be insane.
No.
But then again, Canada's accepting LGBTQ refugees. So
that's true. And
actually, though.
Yes, I know. That's true. Well, if you are feeling persecuted in the States because you're a crypto user or a crypto company, the UK wants you.
Yeah, you can move to the UK.
You. So basically, they are saying out loud that, like, the government is saying out loud that they're going to try to find the Goldilocks solution for crypto. They want to have enough regulation that people feel safe using it and enough innovation that it can attract new business. This is, again, kind of a stab at Berlin and Paris, who are also trying to become crypto hubs, and now the UAE trying to become a crypto hub. And everyone's trying to become a crypto hub except America. America's not doing it. So,
see, America just acts under the assumption that we will always be a global power of finance. And I just don't think that's the case. It's so much easier for competitors to exist globally now.
Anywhere? Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a totally different business. And I think that, the false assumption, I think it's a false assumption. And I think we're going to end up caught with our pants down in America, that they're going to say, okay, finally we made regulation, but the damage is
regulate.
Like a lot of it's done. So I don't know.
Part of America's draw for so long was that it was such a large, unregulated space with a high population, right? And so you had people to sell to. But in a digital economy, you can sell to anybody in the world. So you can still sell to Americans and live somewhere, or at least have your business set up somewhere that has better regulation for you.
Well, America's always been like
globalization.
Not always, but generally America's been like, let's keep as much liberty as we can. Let's regulate as little as we can, but still to achieve our policy goals, et cetera, et cetera. And for some reason, this is like the exact opposite.
So weird.
It's so strange.
Now there are skeptics about the UK. But especially because the Treasury Select Committee's report claims that cryptocurrencies serve no useful social purpose. There are some people wondering if the regulation will be as lenient as they hope. But on the other hand, people who are involved in the government at a business sort of level are trying to attract you. So if you hate being in America, maybe try the UK. I mean, I wouldn't, but
we've got great friends and partners in the UK. It's not my least favorite, but it's definitely at the bottom of my list of countries I like going to, which is strange because a lot of people love going to London.
I hate it there so much.
I know a ton of people that love going to London. I don't. Like, everything about London has been frustrating every time I've ever been there. And I've been there enough times to like give it a good attempt. I think I've been there probably 8 or 10 times now. Like,
you've really tried.
enough times, yeah, that I should not hate certain parts of it. But
so before we go, we should note that the latest to be quote unquote persecuted under American crypto law is Celsius. So the CFTC is actually taking a look at Celsius, and the CEO, I believe Celsius is gone though, right? Like this is a kind of a postmortem.
It got bought by Michael Arrington, put together a group, and they've rebranded it Fahrenheit, which is freaking hilarious.
That's terrible.
But yeah, so like I think when it goes into receivership like that and bankruptcy, and it was purchased by the liquidators, I think, and I don't know this with certainty, I can maybe ask Mike, but I think that they have immunity from past actions as an ongoing business, but the business has immunity from past actions. But I think the sins of the past are still borne by the original founders. And Mashinsky's been publicly chastised by pretty much anybody about, some really poor decisions. His wife was publicly fighting with everybody for a while. Like it's just a messy situation.
Seems bad.
It's a lot of people lost a lot of money again though with
the thing that the thing that I think is interesting here. So they are being charged with misleading investors, and they didn't register with the regulator. But what's interesting here is we've been seeing a lot of the SEC crackdown, and now the CFTC is starting to step up and take on more cases, maybe a little bit more quietly than the SEC, but it's happening. So
yeah, well, I think there's like they're starting to see now that if they don't do something, the SEC is taking all of the spotlight. So they both want to be the regulator of choice of crypto because there's a lot of enforcement dollars. It substantiates a much bigger team, and so on. And that's, these bureaucracies just want to grow. They're just like black holes of power.
I was gonna say, so weird. Do they want power and control over constituents?
Who would have thunk? Weird. But anyways,
all right.
I mean, things like this, like I wish they would do preemptive, right? Like regulatory stuff, like go to groups and say, hey, the way you're doing this is incorrect, fix it in a certain amount of time, or boom. But instead, what they've done, most of these cases, all the damage has already happened. And now they're just trying to clean it up. And it's too little too late in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
This is like, I think you weren't here. I think I was with Vincent for that episode. But Kraken is being asked to share information from as far back as 2016 for people who transacted more than $20,000 in that year. And I'm like, maybe focus on something new. Like
they're going back and trying to play catch up.
It's too far, right? Yeah.
And the IRS
is a statute of limitations on that.
I think it's 7 years, which would explain 2016. But it's just kind of ridiculous. Like I remember that happened in Canada too, where they requested and had to provide all your data back to like 2014 at the time or something. So if you didn't pay your taxes, then you're in big shit. All
right. Well, that's the crypto arms race today.
Crypto arms race. We took a trip around the globe today.
My favorite day.
Live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Like, share, subscribe, do all that shit to help us out.
Do it all.
Do all that shit. Help us out. We will see you tomorrow
for FU Friday.
And it might not be all GG tomorrow. We'll see. So tune in. FU Friday. Kiara, go find yourself.